Welcome to Plants vs. Meat, the podcast where we put the health, environment, and animal rights debates on the chopping block. Real Men Eat Plants is proud to provide time to dig deep into the meaty issues that divide us, as we pit a carnivore against a plant-baser in a no-holds-barred battle for the truth. Get ready to hear some passionate arguments, mind-blowing facts, and maybe even a few jokes, as we explore ways to save the planet, improve our health, and save some animals along the way. So, whether you're a plant-based warrior or a meat-eating machine, tune in to Plants vs. Meat and find out which side you're really on.
Welcome to Plants vs. Meat, the platform for friendly and informative debates between herbivores and carnivores that will give us both a chance to share our perspectives on our different lifestyles. I'm your host, Brian, and joining us today is Igor Gorlatov. He is the founder at Traction 5 and Advisory 5. He's also a senior consultant and executive coach at Groove Management, and he also does quite a bit in the health tech innovation as an advocate. So welcome to the show, Igor. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Brian. Excited for the conversation.
I want to kick us off with a nice, easy icebreaker. Do you think that the Earth is flat?
No, I don't, but I think the flat earthers are all over the globe.
That's right. So we've already got some common ground between us on that front, and we have known each other for quite a while now. I'm just curious if you could share with us a little bit of history on Igor and your journey with food and dietary stuff growing up and your current preferences. Obviously, you're the meat eater here, and I'm the vegan plant-based person.
So I grew up in Soviet Union, in Soviet Belarus. So actually the food choices there were not super cool. So that was the time when the Soviet Union was facing a lot of challenges. Even though my family was not struggling, like even if you had money, you had to wait in long lines to get any kind of food in stores. You even had like special coupons that would allow you to get food. So any kind of food was good. If you could get some meat, that was excellent. So I guess in my childhood, I was very thin. I didn't like the food much, so it helped me keep the balance. As I grew up and kind of going through my younger years, I didn't focus that much on the diet, and I was not particularly attentive, which probably didn't have a good effect on my health and well-being.
I think we've all been there. We've all done that.
And I think as you get older and you start to realize that you're not immortal, that your brain is not as fast as it used to be, you start to pay attention. And I'm lucky to have a wife who is a pescatarian, and she's been working with a nutritionist. And one day she said, Igor, do you want to join me on this diet I'm trying? And I did, and that was a really fun experience. In terms of really limiting the intake, it was hard initially to limit yourself, but then once you get into it, you start to realize probably you should be more attentive to the diet. And since then, I can't say that I'm like very strict with diet. So this is still a journey, but I guess I pay more attention. Try not to eat, for example, big dinners before going to sleep, and combine this more kind of healthy diet, I would say, with other pieces in my lifestyle. So I'll stop there.
No, I think that it's a great overview. I mean, we take for granted, especially here. I mean, I grew up in America, and I'm sure my parents had some money struggles here and then, like every family does growing up to a degree. But like I don't think we ever had to wait in line for food and some of the things that you just said. So it's an important perspective of how we grow up in that regard. I'm curious, like if we unpack the three big things today is really the health, the planet and the animals on that front. I just ask a few more questions on the health side of it. The American diet and everywhere you look is, pushes the protein and stuff. But what do you think are the nutritional aspects and are the most beneficial in our day-to-day eating in that regard?
So first of all, preface like thinking through food and diet and all those things. This is a new space for me,
Hmm.
probably where I need to evolve. But what I found really helpful from like just a consumer perspective, not like analytical or scientific perspective,
Hmm.
is increasing the like first of all setting rules where you just don't have junk food around the house
Hmm.
and suddenly you eat healthier and your kids are eating healthier. And
Yeah.
what we found works really well is to have like fruit as snacks, like apples, mangoes. Uh, these kind of things have worked really well for us and are working really well. So to replace like chips and processed foods with stuff
Hmm.
like that has been working for me. But in terms of a deeper answer, in terms of what is healthy, what needs to be provided,
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm the right person to provide that perspective.
No, I mean it's okay. I mean each of us are at different places in our journey with the nutrition, but it's that thing of like we are eating 3, 4, 5 times a day, whether it's small snacks or maybe you fast and skip a meal here and there, but like what we put into our mouth is the fuel and energy that, recreates every cell in our body every 7 years or so, they say, something like that. So I'm curious, as you've experimented with the couple diets you have, have you seen different energy levels or mood or well-being changes with what you have done?
I think so. So my focus has been more on exercise than diet, and diet
Hmm.
came in a little bit later. And the combination that I have right now, I've seen some changes for sure in terms of like it's exercise, meditation, and diet. Kind of this is like the third piece I'm adding to the mix. But where I'm right now, I go to like I do some exercise every day and I
Hmm.
started doing it over weekends, even though these are short periods, this
Hmm.
helps and try to throw in meditation places. And I
Hmm.
find that it creates a lot more
Yeah.
clarity, a lot more focus, and kind of being focused on what you do, being in the moment is super helpful. So right now, I think there is potential to improve the capacity to perform, but I'm already over the last maybe 6, 8 months, I'm seeing a significant improvement in my energy levels, in my ability to do more, in my
Hmm.
overall like mental acuity. So there is definitely something to all of the things that you're promoting, I'm sure, on your podcast.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I mean this is that healthy debate, and it's like I was watching some video about a gentleman who's interviewed kids from all around the globe, and the Japanese are one of the few societies that have gone through the Industrial Revolution and really, adopted these wide Western diets to a small degree or something like that, but still have maintained the lowest, body mass index and all the other quotients that we have. Almost every more industrialized, first world country has seen massive increases in obesity and things like that. But the thing that I think the American diet pushes quite a bit is the protein side of it. And like, I guess what's your understanding of protein and how much you should get and the protein myth that perpetuates American society?
Uh, To tell you the truth, I haven't given much thought in terms
Hmm.
of like what's the right amount of protein. I do feel a need, like after exercise, to get some protein on a
Hmm.
more like superficial level. With your help, by the way, I love the food that you prepare, and kind
Hmm.
of I've experimented with some vegan options. And honestly, taste-wise, I don't see much difference.
Yeah.
And honestly, my wife, as I mentioned, is a pescatarian, and when we go to farmers market, there is a place that sells those wonderful vegan sandwiches, and I deliberately go there to try that. So mm, I'm not sure I know the exact answer, what's the right amount of protein, or can comment on like the state of food, but the fact that me being exposed to quite a bit of information, not having like a priority of something is maybe telling as well. So we are
Yeah.
not thinking too much about things that are so important and that affect our life. And I'm
It's
case example here.
Right. Well, I mean, I think most your average American is on every level, and you know that's the struggle that I have is your American doctor goes to school for 10 years and barely walks out of 10 years of school with about 10 to 20 hours of nutrition training. When, you know, so the American medical system is very much sort of prone to cutting you open to fix the problem instead of saying, well, why don't you try this diet for 3 months and then come back and we'll see if we still need to do a surgery or something. So it's just that to me, the protein piece of it is really around helping people understand that protein is just a set of amino acids and you get amino acids from almost every single thing that you eat. Now, a complete protein like meat or nuts or beans means it has all of those amino acids that you need to do what the body needs to do. So it's important to know you're getting, you know, 7 amino acids from the broccoli and 3 from the red peppers, and that still adds up to the complete protein. So it's still trying to figure out how do we help people fight that protein myth. The other one is fiber. Like the average American diet doesn't get enough fiber. It sounds like with the fruits and vegetables you've introduced recently, you probably have that under control. Do you feel like do you have the fiber situation going strongly? The more fiber you get, the more it sort of flushes the system and helps your body, you know, find the right stuff. But what's your thoughts on fiber?
I think I'm being helped a lot, so I'm kind of cheating because I have my wife who does some
We
of the
thank
cooking,
her.
and she's big. She's big on salads, and
Yeah.
we do have a lot of salads and different like traditional soups that are like fiber based.
Hmm.
So I think I kind of get this benefit without diving deep myself into the
Yeah.
scientific aspects of it.
Do you think, and I guess the last question on just the health side of it is really around like the longevity. I mean, what is your hope and your desire for your life? I mean, you have kids, I have kids and stuff, like we want to be there for them and everything else. But do you feel like the diet that you currently have is helping you live a long life, but not a long life, but with the mobility and mental awareness that you want to live to a ripe old age?
So I think I've started the journey, like in
Hmm.
combination, like with lifestyle, exercise, and kind of activities. I don't know if I'm fully on the trajectory, probably not. And I'm excited to learn from you, my wife, and kind of other people who
Hmm.
expose me to information that I need to know to get to those points,
Yeah.
like in
Well, I
terms of
appreciate.
having longer and healthier life.
Yeah. I mean, I just appreciate you coming on the show here to talk with us. In my opinion, real men eat plants, but you know, real men also speak up about their values and stuff and challenge the status quo. So I appreciate you taking some time to talk with us about this. The next topic is really the environment and our planet, right? Like, what do you sort of see as the current state of our planet and your thoughts on, you know, the environment and our actions as humans on this planet? Just give us your general thoughts of it.
Uh, my general thoughts are that the situation is pretty dire. And overall, we as humans are not doing a great job towards the environment. And I think it's a combination of factors. On the one hand, it's like desire for growth and
Hmm.
desire for well-being, and we cannot me coming from essentially a third world country, it's like hard to blame people wanting to live well
Hmm.
and eating well and enjoying the benefits of the civilization. But on the other hand, if we replicate American lifestyle through the world, we need like 6, 7, 8 Earths to
Yes.
sustain it. So I understand that right now there is a hope that there will be like AGI, AI, or some other magical pill that
Right.
will solve the problem. I don't think that that is the answer. But on the other hand, to come in to people who are on sustenance living, tell them, look, guys, now you need to change your culture, change the way you live, or just
Hmm.
don't have kids anymore. It's a tough call.
Yeah.
And I know there are like solutions out there that are being discussed, but it's the question of political will and also corporate and social responsibility, not just us individuals, but also having frameworks
Hmm.
that make it easy to make the right choices. So
Yeah.
stop there. I'm curious in your perspective on this.
It's interesting because like we know you said it. I mean, I think we both believe the same thing, that the earth is in a dire state, right? We're cutting down a significant portion of the Amazon forest in order to raise more cattle. That's the lungs of the earth. We're pulling, I mean, trillions of fish out of the oceans every single year to eat them, and we're gonna basically fish the oceans dry, which is gonna cause problems. And so, like, my concern is, when you say, like, what's the significant cause of climate change? Like, what do you think is one of the things that we have to stop to help reverse the climate change and get carbon neutral?
Um, my thinking, and I haven't done like much research into this, is to build in some incentives for organizations to change the practices they use. If we talk about like production, it's like making things that are carbon neutral. If we are talking about like agriculture or growing animals, creating sustainable practices or encouraging of creating funding for sustainable practices and sharing best technologies in that space with countries who otherwise would not be able to adopt them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and the United States helps so many countries around the planet, but you know the the thing for me is like it's 10 times easier, in my opinion, to grow beans and ship the beans worldwide than it is to grow the beans and the corn and feed it to the cows. So then you can kill the cow and transport the cow someplace else on that front. So I just see a significant source of our CO2 emissions around animal agriculture. You know what I mean? There are billions of chickens on this planet, that have to be killed every single year. I don't know what it is, 100 billion chickens or something like that. It's quite a large number of just the chickens and the fish and the stuff that we eat. And if we stopped a lot of those things, we would definitely be able to help drastically reduce our carbon footprint on this planet and just grow more beans and stuff like that. So the
All right, if you've ever wanted to show off your plant-based lifestyle and do it in style, here's your chance. We have some of the most amazing t-shirts, hats, accessories, coffee mugs, and more at shop.realmeneatplants.com. We have statement t-shirts that will bring a smile to everyone's face. I love the I want tofu tonight tee. Plus, we have podcast tees, Real Women Eat Plants gear, Real Kids Eat Plants, and Real People Eat Plants, just in case men, women, and kids didn't cover it all. Yeah, we love you and love that you want to show off that healthy lifestyle of yours. Again, check out our high-quality gear at shop.realmeneatplants.com and enjoy.
the problem I see is that the world isn't ready for that kind of realization, and so we blend the chickens into this bucket and the cows into that bucket, and so we all think that it's transportation. If we have electric airplanes and electric cars, that's going to help us save the planet, when that's probably animal agriculture as a combined thing is probably closer to 40 or 50% of our CO2 emission versus the 20% of transportation. So I don't know, that's my struggle with the environment and the planet. How do you see the society, I guess, that's eating the meat, to how do we still eat meat and stop climate change? If you believe the facts I just said, anyway.
That's a tough question, and I'm not sure I have like an ideal answer, but like you refer to, this is not like a simple system where you
Hmm.
can enforce a mathematically optimal solution in terms of, okay, this is how we do it.
Right.
Let's raise our internal dictator and force things on people. That might be hard, and I know that might cause some struggles. For example, if you encourage only vegan foods, I've read that it can lead to monocultures where
Hmm.
people kind of rely instead of I think that was with energy when like we started using different oils from plants versus oil instead of growing regular food, some third world countries started to grow those specific oils. And when there was a crisis, nobody wanted to buy that. They
Hmm.
didn't have food to eat. So how do you, like, it's a very complex system that requires like local solutions in some
Hmm.
cases. I'm not sure we can have like, okay, this is a universal solution. But
And
I feel,
the vegans are just as guilty, right? Like we want our strawberries and we want our avocados and we want our chocolate, which are all vegan things that, well, anybody on the planet wants those things probably, and we're transporting those all around the planet as well. And some of those take more energy than others, but we have to find some ways to grow these things more sustainable or get back to things that we may have done 100 years ago again. um, in some way, shape, or form.
but I'm a believer in incentives and creating incentives in a way that kind of, if you come up with an idea that is helping in this particular way, is there a way to give you tax benefits? Is there a way to help you market your idea so that people can actually support you? And on the contrary, if you're not doing all those things, is there a way to have you pay more so that at least through this mechanism, it's
Yeah.
financially easy to make good choices? So
And
I'm not a believer in like intellectual arguments. I am a believer in like rules and systems that align with our values. But how to
yeah,
get there, that's
it's
not as
interesting,
straightforward.
right? No, I agree completely. It's not straightforward, and it's a struggle. So, like the vegan, if we just say the companies that are trying to use fruits and vegetables to help, or even the whole fungi world to create meat alternatives and protein alternatives, if we can make the food taste better than the burger that you're used to eating, then we will have the incentive to tip you towards our scale. So that's the current goal, in my opinion, of all the plant-based proteins, is to make ours be as the same price and taste as good or better than the alternatives. And if we can do that, we will start tipping the scale. And I think we are making great strides. But to your point, like we also have to release some of the subsidies. Like the meat industry and the dairy industry in America is extremely subsidized by the federal government. We have to give up those incentives because it's no longer, it shouldn't be there anymore. I think a pound of hamburger would cost $30 or $40 a pound if the American government didn't subsidize it. So the Beyond Burger and Impossible Burgers are already as cheap or cheaper than meat without the subsidies, right? But I don't know how do we get rid of the subsidies, and that's a different conversation for the lobbyists to deal with. So, but it's true, right? Like those incentives, um, we should incentivize carbon neutrality way more than we incentivize dairy and meat industries, in my mind.
I hope the opportunity will present itself. So for the system to be a little bit more receptive to needs of the planet and needs of the people
Yeah,
versus needs of the people with a checkbook.
yeah. And well, I appreciate you talking through the health or the planet side of this with us. The last one is the tricky one, is the ethical side of it, the animals and the suffering that happens and stuff. So how do you sort of think through the diet that you have been on and I used to be on a long time ago, you know, with the animal welfare?
So honestly, this is not something that is top of mind, and this kind of helps deal with any ethical considerations when you are thinking about other issues. But speaking not like from a personal experience, but from a like human experience, I feel we as humans, we prioritize our own well-being over animal welfare.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there is like hunger even in the US, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are things that make it really like there are so many problems at the level of humans that it's hard to prioritize the problems of animals or to make them like compelling. Uh, but again, I think making things easier for people to make those choices, like we buy like free range eggs, or we pay attention, like, is it a sustainable farming situation? Of course, probably this is not like the ultimate solution to this, but
Hmm.
people are paying attention
Yeah.
to those things and making it easier to make the right choices, like financially or through education, is probably the path forward. And I'm not
Mhm.
kind of removing responsibility for myself. I think I need to educate myself as well. And me joining you and learning from you is part of that journey.
And just I've been on my journey long enough to know, like, you see the happy, fun-loving animals outside of every restaurant you go to. They're the spokesperson for the cows at Chick-fil-A are the spokesperson for the chickens that they're killing. It's interesting to see how we've hidden the true nature of what's happening with industrialized farming. Like, when I say picture a cow, you and I think of a field of grass and the cow grazing with sunshine and everything else, and it's killed and slaughtered very quickly and humanely, and then taken to the butcher's, kind of a thing. But in reality, a good portion, I don't know what it is, 90% of the meat on the planet that's produced is produced in industrial farming, where they don't even ever see a blade of grass, let alone perhaps the sun. And even the free range chickens, that just means they've been given 10 square feet of places to walk around inside a shed instead of 2 feet. So it's just misleading. I would encourage you to watch Dominion, the movie, if your stomach can handle it. I couldn't watch it straight through. I had to pause it several times, but it was very, very eye-opening to see the tremendous amount of suffering that happens. You say the free range chickens, but that also means, if you look at it in more detail, that the women chickens are the ones that lay the eggs. So if they do hatch any eggs to grow into other chickens, they most likely kill 50% of them because they're men, right? So we're just instantly slaughtering them as soon as they're born because they're the wrong gender. So just the huge amount of suffering that goes on in the world when it comes to certain animals is just mind blowing, that it isn't more of an issue, and we've just culturally, I don't know, desensitized ourselves to that whole industry in some fashion. So, what do you like? I don't know. I say those things, and it makes you kind of think about it probably a little bit. Like, do you think our ethical considerations should influence the food policy and what we do eat on a regular basis? How do we bring that more to the surface?
It should, but I'm curious what helped you kind of develop that sensitivity. What was the trigger for you and people you engage on this podcast? What are you seeing has been working? Or is it something that only a small chunk of the population who don't have to worry about other things in life?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think there's for me, I went down this path of the health. The health benefits for me have far outweighed any other diet that I've seen to help me come to this lifestyle. And then once I went down this path, I realized, man, we're destroying the planet. So that one just really resonated. I have children. I want the planet to be around for my children. And then I watched some documentaries on the tremendous amount of suffering. And it's hard for me to sit here and say that I will spend any amount of money on my cats and my dogs to keep them alive and feed them like kings, but yet a rat has no protections in the United States whatsoever. It's a mammal just like you and me. It has babies and produces milk and stuff, but they are treated like vermin and killed and destroyed, and you know what I mean, and used in lab testing. And the cows have same emotions and bonds and stuff, and the suffering that they have to go through. So I don't know, you really start to unpack it and think of, would you do that to your own children versus us? And it starts to really resonate and pull on a deeper string in some fashion for me.
But
So,
I'm curious, how does this kind of connection with another species like mammal make it so close as humans? Because I think this is where people struggle to make that
hmm
connection, even though intellectually we may understand that we're kind of the same, but on the other hand, we share 60% of DNA with grass.
Right.
So kind
Right.
of.
Yeah. And I love to eat some plants. Right. Yeah. So like,
So where do you draw the line, right?
right.
If
And
it,
it is that thing around, you know, does whatever you're eating have nerve endings and have feelings, and you know, how do you define that to a degree? You know, we're finding out so much about the fungi world and the mycelium network, and I don't know, we're all interconnected in a big way. But I do think as human beings, we're herbivores first and foremost. We've just developed the ability to eat other things if we need to in a time of scarcity on that front. And as humans, we can't eat meat without cooking it. Like we cook it to kill the bacteria in it. You know, a cat is designed specifically to have a very acidic belly and you know, eat meat on that front. Its teeth are designed that way. We are very much plant eaters that can eat an occasional meat as long as we cook it, or we can even eat it raw, but there's a strong chance that we may get sick from it. So you see those pieces of the puzzle. You know, each person has to figure out their own way to come about it. And I think one of those three, health, environment, or animal, really pulls on a heartstring. Uh, you know, you know, you have dogs, you'd never consider eating them, right? So
no.
in a million years. But if you look at elwoodsdogmeat.com, you know, she's selling dog meat and has huge struggles trying to sell dog meat to different places. But at the same time, it's perfectly acceptable to raise and sell dog meat, I guess. So it's tricky for sure. So yeah, I appreciate you talking through the ethical side of it. I mean, anything else you'd say on the ethical side that struck a chord with you?
I think building the bridge between ethical concepts and like human experience is important and kind of getting us to think. And thank you for suggesting some documentaries to explore this further. I think this is helpful. And I also appreciate that you are not kind of advocating for like simplistic solutions
Yeah.
and figuring out a path that is balanced is the path forward, where I'm seeing simplicity is like understanding human nature, that it's
Hmm.
not just about reason. I think it was Churchill or someone who said, like, if you appeal to reason, you appeal to 4% of the population. So figuring
Right.
out how to deal with 96%, and honestly, even if you are in the 4% in one thing, in other things you can still be in 96%. And this is
Hmm.
where I feel it's like we as a society have to figure out. Like counting on individuals is great, but I'm not a big believer that just through individual efforts we could get there. But as a society, through mechanisms, understanding how our psyche works, we can do a lot. And I think our ability to essentially defeat smoking and
Hmm.
like get rid
Yeah.
of this habit shows that we can change even very addictive things. And if we offer alternatives, if we educate people, so I think there is definitely a path to get there, and it
Hmm.
takes some volunteers and enthusiasts to
Yeah.
educate the rest of us.
And don't get me wrong, there is a simple solution. Everybody should just go vegan tomorrow. But realistically speaking, like you said, 96% of us need to be convinced in some way, shape, or form um, to come to that. And I'm not expecting everybody to do it overnight, but I do really appreciate you coming on here and having a dialogue and having that conversation, because that's what it's all about. We have to have that conversation. And if you can just eat more plant-based a little bit more each week or each month, you will be a contributing person to helping save the planet and reduce suffering and a bunch of other things and improve your health, I think, on that front. So it is about starting these dialogues and talking about it to find the right path. So we shall see. I mean, I say some of the strongest animals on the planet are herbivores. You know, elephants. They're the largest land animals. They're vegan, right? They eat bamboo and grass and roots, and they're extremely strong. Gorillas, like you said, we share 98% of our DNA with gorillas, and they eat stems, bamboo, fruit, and they can weigh up to 400 pounds and lift 10 times their body weight. And if you look at the longest living animals on the planet are turtles, and they're the herbivores as well, and they eat algae and fruits and can live up to 150 years. So I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity to look at the health benefits of a plant-based diet. So I continue to encourage you to explore that, Igor.
I'm already exploring, and I love actually when you entertain the foods you prepare, vegan diet. It's very enticing, to tell you the truth. It's really good. So on that front,
I encourage many people to try to veganize a recipe and give it a try, because I think the vegan food can rival any taste that you can find in the meat world on that front. So I appreciate you being willing to come over for that meal and give it a try, and I hope there's many more in the future. So
thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Igor. We really appreciate you being here. That's all the time we have for this episode of Plants versus Meat and our podcast. And we really appreciate you joining us, and help spread the word. Everybody, leave a comment down below. Tell us what you liked, what you didn't like. Heat up the debate. How are we going to solve this many problems that we're facing, that we're talking through today? And also let us know some other guests that we should have on the show. We're always looking for more opportunities to have a great conversation and discuss plants versus meat.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Plants versus Meat. We hope you enjoyed the debate and gained some new insights into the complex world of food choices. Remember, whether you choose plants or meat, the most important thing is to make informed decisions that work for you and the planet. Don't forget to tune in next time for more food for thought and more heated debates. Thanks for listening to Plants versus Meat, brought to you by Real Men Eat Plants. Head over to Apple Podcast and give us a review, and let us know what you think about this episode. Don't forget to tag us at Plant versus Meat Podcast when you share this episode in your preferred social media. Do you think you have a good argument about eating meat? Be our guest and email us at pvm@realmeneatplants.com. We love hearing from our listeners. Thank you to our guests and to you, our listeners, for your support, and see you next time.